Denied respect in first class. How a black CEO took down an airline. The plane's cabin was unusually quiet, but beneath that stillness simmered a tension that felt almost electric. Jason Carter sat rigid in seat 1A, the coveted first-class seat he had every right to occupy. His tailored navy suit was impeccable, his posture calm, but behind his steady gaze was a storm brewing. His fingers gripped an untouched champagne flute, knuckles whitening as his mind replayed the moment that had just shattered the illusion of comfort on this flight. "Sir, I'm afraid this meal is reserved for paying first-class passengers only." The words hung in the air like a cold slab of stone. The flight attendant's voice was polite but laced with an unmistakable edge, a tone dripping with condescension. All eyes in the cabin turned to Jason, some filled with surprise, others with barely concealed amusement. But none could see the fire igniting behind his calm exterior. Jason was no ordinary passenger. He was the youngest black CEO in the history of Skyhawk Airlines, a company he had transformed from a struggling regional carrier into a major player in the aviation industry. He had started at the very bottom, loading luggage on scorching tarmac, fighting daily battles against prejudice and doubt. Today, after closing a multi-billion-dollar deal, he was flying home expecting a quiet moment to reflect on his hard-earned success. Instead, he was reminded of a harsh, unyielding truth. No matter how high he climbed, no matter how many glass ceilings he shattered, to some he was still invisible. Just a man defined by the color of his skin. The lead flight attendant, a man named Carter, smirked as he took away the gourmet plate Jason had ordered, his eyes cold and unyielding. Nearby, white passengers sipped their Dom Perignon untouched, oblivious to the injustice unfolding just feet away. Jason's assistant, seated in coach, watched in stunned silence, disbelief spreading across her face. Jason pressed the call button, his voice calm but firm when he spoke to the attendant, but his calls were ignored. Rising from his seat, he moved toward the aisle only to be physically blocked. "Sir, please remain seated," Carter said, his tone flat and commanding. The murmurs grew louder. A passenger whispered, "Entitled much." Jason's jaw clenched, the sting of humiliation burning fresh. And then, as if fate had its own timing, his phone buzzed with a breaking news alert. Skyhawk Airlines had just been acquired by his company. This was his airline now, his rules. Ignoring the protestations of the cabin crew, Jason strode confidently to the cockpit. The captain paled upon recognizing him. "Mr. Carter," he said quietly. Jason cut him off. "Patch me through to human resources, now." The crew laughed. Passengers exchanged doubtful glances. Could the man who had built an empire from nothing really own the airline he was flying? But Jason Carter was done with doubt, done being invisible. He tapped his phone, his voice calm but razor sharp, as it echoed through the PA system. "Attention, all passengers and crew, on Flight 812. Effective immediately, all cabin crew are relieved of their duties for gross misconduct." The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted. Jason took a slow sip of his champagne finally served. As security escorted the crew off the plane, cameras flashed and whispers turned into headlines. This was more than a battle over a meal. This was a fight for respect, for recognition, for dignity, and Jason Carter had just rewritten the rules. The cabin crew's shocked faces told Jason everything he needed to know. This was unprecedented. They had underestimated him, a mistake they would soon regret. As security escorted the dismissed crew down the jet bridge, whispers started to ripple through the cabin. Passengers pulled out phones, recording the moment as if witnessing history live. Jason's assistant leaned in, eyes wide but steady. "Jason, you really did it. They didn't see this coming." He nodded slowly, the weight of what had just happened settling over him. But beneath the surface, a storm of questions churned. How could this happen in 2025? In one of the most prestigious airlines, how was it possible that despite all his success, he was still subjected to such blatant discrimination? The flight continued, but Jason's mind was far from the champagne glass in front of him. He replayed every detail, the dismissive smirk, the stolen meal, the refusal to acknowledge his authority. The injustice was raw, personal, a reminder that progress was still a fight every single day. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from the media news crews had picked up the story. Headlines were exploding across social networks. Black CEO fires entire crew. After discrimination incident, Skyhawk Airlines CEO stands up against racism. Flight 812, the moment respect was demanded. Jason leaned back, feeling the tension ease just a fraction. This was bigger than him now. This was about every person who had ever been made to feel invisible because of their race, their gender, or their identity. This was a statement: no more silence, no more acceptance of disrespect. But even as the applause grew louder online, Jason knew the real battle was just beginning. Back in the cockpit, the captain glanced nervously at him. "What happens now, Mr. Carter?" Jason fixed him with a steady look. "Now we make sure this never happens again." The moment the plane touched down in New York, the storm that had quietly brewed erupted into a full-blown media frenzy. Jason Carter's bold move was no longer just a story among passengers, it was everywhere. Reporters camped outside the Skyhawk Airlines headquarters, flashing cameras and demanding statements. Social media exploded with hashtags and debates, people taking sides, sharing the video that had gone viral within hours. But amid the public uproar, the internal battle began. Jason sat in his sleek corner office phone, in hand, staring at the endless stream of messages, some supportive, many hostile. The airline board members were calling non-stop. The CEO of Skyhawk Airlines himself demanded a meeting. Jason, his assistant, whispered as she handed him a call from the chairman. "They want you to apologize or risk losing the contract with the government." He pressed ignore. There was no apology coming, not for standing up to racism, not for demanding respect. Instead, Jason leaned back, the weight of leadership settling heavier than ever. The news had spread quickly, but what about the long-term consequences? Would Skyhawk Airlines retaliate? Would his own company's shareholders see this as reckless? He knew one thing: this fight wasn't just on the plane anymore. It was in the boardrooms, the courtrooms, and the court of public opinion. Just then, a knock on the door broke his concentration. It was Maya, his trusted legal counsel. "Jason," she said quietly, "Skyhawk is preparing a counter-lawsuit. They're claiming defamation and breach of contract." Jason's jaw tightened. The stakes had just escalated. "This isn't just about a meal," Maya continued. "They want to make an example of you, but if we play this right, we could change everything." Jason nodded slowly, feeling the fire ignite within him again. The real fight was just beginning, and this time it was personal and public. The days after the incident felt like a whirlwind. Jason's phone buzzed relentlessly. Calls from reporters, messages from supporters, and threats disguised as warnings from Skyhawk's legal team. The airline wasn't backing down, and neither was the media machine feeding on the controversy. Inside Wright Aeronautics' headquarters, tension rippled through every hallway. Employees whispered in hushed tones, torn between pride in their CEO's stand and fear of the fallout. Some worried the company's stock would plummet. Others saw an opportunity for change. Jason barely slept. Each night he reviewed the legal documents Maya had prepared, studying every angle. They planned to file a countersuit not just for defamation, but for systemic discrimination and violation of civil rights. But the battle wasn't just legal. Skyhawk's CEO, Richard Langston, was a seasoned shark in the corporate waters. He launched a smear campaign to paint Jason as a reckless executive abusing his power. Fake leaks, anonymous tips to journalists, and targeted social media attacks aimed to isolate Jason and discredit his message. One evening, as Jason returned home, he found a note slipped under his door. No signature. Just 3 chilling words. "Back off now." His pulse quickened, but his resolve hardened. Jason gathered his closest team. "They want to break us," he said. "But this is bigger than any threat. It's about respect. It's about justice, and we're not backing down." Maya nodded. "We'll need allies, activists, politicians, anyone who can amplify this fight beyond courtrooms." Jason smiled grimly. "Then let's make some noise." Outside, the city lights flickered as the battle lines were drawn, and the fight for dignity was about to explode onto the national stage. The news of Jason Wright's bold move spread like wildfire. Support poured in from unexpected corners, civil rights groups, influential activists, and even politicians known for championing equality. Suddenly, what started as a personal battle transformed into a nationwide conversation about race power and corporate accountability. Jason's phone rang off the hook. Calls from advocacy organizations offered partnership, while social media exploded with hashtags supporting his cause. Yet amidst the rising momentum, the pressure intensified. At a packed press conference, Jason stood firm, his voice steady but charged with conviction. "This isn't just about me," he declared. "It's about every person who's ever been marginalized or dismissed because of who they are. We're rewriting the rules, not just for Wright Aeronautics, but for every airline, every corporation, every institution." But not everyone cheered. Skyhawk Airlines retaliated with aggressive PR campaigns, painting Jason as arrogant and divisive. Their legal team pushed for injunctions to silence his statements and demanded a public apology. Inside the boardroom of Wright Aeronautics, the tension was palpable. Some executives feared the backlash could cripple the company financially. Others believed Jason's courage would elevate their brand to new heights. Meanwhile, Maya and the legal team worked tirelessly, preparing to face Skyhawk's legal onslaught. Behind the scenes, they uncovered evidence suggesting a pattern of discriminatory practices within Skyhawk, a bombshell that could turn the tide. Yet with every step forward, the opposition grew fiercer. Anonymous threats escalated. A late-night break-in at Jason's home shook his family. His daughter Emma feared for her father's safety, pleading with him to reconsider the fight. Jason's resolve never wavered. "If we back down now," he told Maya, "we lose more than a battle. We lose our dignity." As the storm brewed, allies gathered, strategies sharpened, and the lines of battle hardened. This was no longer just a CEO's fight. It was a fight for respect, justice, and the soul of an industry. The pressure was mounting, but Jason knew that to win this fight, he had to understand his enemy better than anyone else. It was time to step into the lion's den. Disguised as a routine industry conference attendee, Jason attended a high-profile aviation summit where Skyhawk Airlines' top executives were expected to reveal their next moves. The ballroom was filled with polished suits, strategic smiles, and a veil of corporate politeness masking ruthless ambition. Jason listened carefully as Skyhawk's CEO, Richard Caldwell, laid out a vision of renewal and customer focus. But beneath the glossy words, there was a sharp edge, a promise to crush dissent and protect their brand at all costs. After the speech, Jason managed to slip into a small gathering where Richard and his closest advisors discussed their legal strategy against Wright Aeronautics and the unfolding scandal. They mocked Jason openly, questioning his credibility and painting him as an impetuous outsider. But Jason was ready. He discreetly recorded the conversation on a hidden device, a risky move that could either become his greatest weapon or a disastrous breach of trust. Leaving the summit, Jason felt the weight of the battle ahead. Skyhawk wasn't just defending itself. It was fighting to maintain a culture steeped in privilege and discrimination. This war was personal, and the stakes had never been higher. Back at Wright Aeronautics, Jason shared the recording with Maya and their legal team. The evidence was damning clear indications of a deliberate effort to discredit and silence him. They now had the leverage they needed, but it came with risks. Releasing the recording would escalate the conflict to a new level, forcing both companies into a legal and media war that could destroy reputations on both sides. Jason stared at the file on his laptop, knowing this decision would shape not only his company's future, but potentially the future of the entire airline industry. With a deep breath, he prepared to pull the trigger. The moment Jason pressed send on the secure email to several major news outlets and regulatory agencies, a wave of anxiety mixed with determination washed over him. The recording of Skyhawk Airlines executives mocking him and plotting to discredit Wright Aeronautics was now in the public domain. There was no turning back. News outlets wasted no time. Headlines exploded overnight. Exclusive leaked audio reveals Skyhawk's strategy to undermine rival CEO, and inside the battle between aviation giants, discrimination, deception, and power plays. Public reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media lit up with debates, outrage, and support. Many rallied behind Jason, praising his courage and calling for accountability. Others warned that he had crossed a line, accusing him of sabotage. Within hours, Skyhawk Airlines issued a formal statement condemning the leak, calling it an illegal and unethical act meant to damage the integrity of their leadership. Richard Caldwell held a press conference projecting calm but visibly rattled. He vowed to fight these baseless accusations and protect our employees and customers. Back at Wright Aeronautics headquarters, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Maya and the legal team prepared for the inevitable legal battles while Jason fielded interviews and coordinated with allies in the industry and civil rights organizations. Yet beneath the surface, the conflict was intensifying in ways no one anticipated. Some board members at Wright questioned the risks Jason was taking, worrying the war might destroy everything they had built. Meanwhile, Skyhawk began an aggressive counterattack, digging for dirt on Jason's past and his company's vulnerabilities. Amidst the chaos, Jason received a cryptic message: "Meet me. I have information that will change everything." A lone, midnight, rooftop hotel Meridian. The sender was anonymous. Jason hesitated. Was it a trap or a chance to gain the upper hand with the stakes higher than ever? He knew one thing for sure: this fight was far from over. Jason stood under the dim glow of the street lamp outside Hotel Meridian, the cold night air biting through his jacket. The city around him was hushed, but his mind raced. Who could have sent that message? And what information could possibly change everything? He checked his watch, almost midnight. The rooftop door creaked open slowly, and a figure stepped out, shadowed but unmistakably familiar. Maya Jason breathed relief and suspicion mingling. She nodded, her face serious. "I couldn't reach you by phone. There's something you need to know. Something that's bigger than Skyhawk, bigger than us." Jason motioned her to a corner away from prying eyes and possible cameras. Maya pulled out a slim envelope, slipping it into his hand. "I got this from a source inside Skyhawk. They're planning a hostile takeover, not just of Wright Aeronautics, but of several key aviation suppliers. It's a massive operation, and it's why they're desperate to discredit you." Jason's heart pounded. This was no ordinary corporate rivalry. It was a battle for control over an entire industry. "We need proof," Jason said. "Something concrete to stop them." Maya nodded. "There's more. Someone on the inside is willing to talk, but they want assurances, safety protection. We have to move fast." Jason's mind flashed to the leaking audio and the viral uproar it caused. This could be the final piece to bring Skyhawk down for good, or the trap that destroys them both. As they prepared to leave the rooftop, a faint sound caught Jason's attention. Footsteps approaching fast. "Stay close," he whispered, tired. A figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't a threat. It was an unexpected ally. "Jason," the stranger said quietly, "you're going to want to hear what I have to say." Jason's eyes narrowed as he studied the stranger standing before him. The dim light revealed a sharp face framed by tousled hair, eyes that held a mix of urgency and caution. "I'm Liam," the man said, voice low. "I work in Skyhawk's strategic division. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Jason's mind raced. An insider willing to risk everything. It was exactly what they needed. Liam pulled out a small flash drive from his jacket pocket. This contains internal communications emails, memos, meeting recordings, everything about the takeover plan and their efforts to sabotage Wright Aeronautics. Maya glanced nervously around. If this gets out, it will blow Skyhawk's operation wide open. Jason took the drive, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Why are you helping us? Liam hesitated. Because I believe in fairness, in respect. What they did to you, denying your place, your rights, that's how they operate internally too. It's not just about business, it's personal. Jason felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just a battle for a company anymore. It was a fight for justice. Okay, Jason said firmly. We move quickly, we verify this, then bring it to the board and the public. But we have to be smart. They'll come after us hard. Maya nodded. I know someone who can help with that. A cybersecurity expert who owes me a favor. Jason felt the first real hope since the flight incident. Then let's get to work. As they slipped away into the night, the stakes had never been higher and the war had only just begun. Jason and Maya met with Ethan, the cybersecurity expert, in a nondescript downtown office. Ethan was a sharp-minded hacker with a reputation for exposing corporate corruption. Show me what you've got, Ethan said, eyes gleaming with interest as Liam handed over the flash drive. Within minutes, Ethan's fingers flew over the keyboard, peeling back layers of encrypted files, revealing conversations and documents that painted a dark picture. Skyhawk's executives plotting sabotage, leaking false info to media, and even intimidating shareholders. This is explosive, Ethan said, but they've got layers of cover-ups. We'll need to trace back their sources without alerting them. Jason watched as Maya nervously bit her lip. If they find out we're digging this deep, they'll come after us. Ethan smiled grimly. That's why I work from the shadows. Hours turned into days as Ethan traced the digital footprints. Meanwhile, Jason coordinated with Maya and Liam, planning how to expose Skyhawk at the upcoming shareholder meeting where a crucial vote on Wright Aeronautics' future would take place. One evening, as Jason prepared a speech that could change everything, his phone buzzed. An anonymous message flashed on the screen. Stop digging or there will be consequences. His heart pounded. The war wasn't just on paper or screens anymore. It was personal. Jason clenched his fists. They think threats will stop us. They don't know who they're dealing with. Maya looked up from her notes. We need to be ready for anything. The countdown to the shareholder meeting began with the fate of Wright Aeronautics and the truth hanging in the balance. The grand hall buzzed with anticipation. Journalists, investors, and executives from across the industry gathered for the annual Skyhawk Airlines shareholder meeting. The atmosphere was thick with tension, whispers of scandal swirling beneath the polished surface. Jason stood backstage rehearsing his speech one last time. Maya and Liam flanked him, their faces a mix of determination and anxiety. This is our moment, Maya whispered. If we pull this off, it could change everything. As the meeting commenced, Skyhawk's CEO took the stage with a confident smile masking the undercurrents of unease. He delivered the usual corporate platitudes, painting a rosy picture of the airline's future. Then came Jason's turn. Walking up to the podium, he felt all eyes on him. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every expression. He cleared his throat and began. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here not just as an investor, but as a witness to a deep-seated betrayal, one that threatens the very integrity of Skyhawk Airlines. He unveiled the evidence. Ethan had uncovered emails, audio recordings, and internal memos revealing the sabotage, racial discrimination, and corrupt practices within the airline's leadership. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. The CEO's smile faltered as Jason laid bare the truth. You've been lied to, Jason continued, his voice steady despite the electric tension. This is a fight for justice, respect, and the future of an industry that can no longer tolerate such darkness. Suddenly, security moved toward the stage. The CEO's voice rang out. This meeting is adjourned, but the shareholders, stirred by the revelations, refused to disperse. The room erupted into chaos, but Jason's message was clear. The battle was far from over, and the world was finally watching. The shareholder meeting ended in a whirlwind of confusion and outrage. News outlets blasted headlines about the scandal and social media exploded with heated debates. Skyhawk Airlines stock plummeted overnight, investors demanding answers. Backstage, Jason, Maya, and Liam regrouped, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. They knew the battle had just begun. "We shook the system," Liam said, eyes fierce, "but they won't go down without a fight." True to his words, the CEO launched a counterattack. Press releases denied all allegations, labeling Jason and his team as troublemakers trying to destabilize the company for personal gain. Legal threats followed. Skyhawk's lawyers sent cease and desist letters demanding silence. The board convened emergency meetings pushing for Jason's removal from the shareholder list. Meanwhile, Malcolm's story went viral worldwide. People were inspired by his courage, sparking conversations about systemic racism and corporate accountability. But the pressure weighed heavily on the team. Maya received anonymous threats. Liam's phone was hacked. Jason's reputation was dragged through the mud by powerful forces determined to silence him. Late one night, as he reviewed documents in his apartment, Jason found an encrypted message. It was a warning: back off or everything you've worked for will be destroyed. Instead of fear, it ignited a fierce resolve. Jason knew that exposing the truth meant risking everything, but he was ready to face whatever came next. Just when the pressure seemed unbearable, an unexpected message arrived. An anonymous tip from someone inside Skyhawk Airlines promised crucial evidence that could turn the tide. Jason, Maya, and Liam met in a quiet cafe late at night, the glow of their laptops casting shadows on their tense faces. "We don't know who it is," Maya whispered, "but this could be the break we desperately need." The files revealed emails, recorded conversations, and internal memos proving that several top executives had actively orchestrated discriminatory policies against certain employees, including Malcolm's ordeal, to maintain their grip on power. Most shocking was the revelation that the CEO himself had tried to cover up previous incidents, manipulating HR and security to silence dissenters. "This changes everything," Liam said, his voice tight with emotion. "We have proof beyond speculation. But with this new evidence came new dangers." The insider warned that the company's security teams were already onto them, monitoring their moves. Jason realized the stakes had never been higher. To expose the truth, they had to act fast and smart. "This isn't just about Malcolm anymore," Jason said grimly. "It's about justice for everyone who's been silenced." Armed with undeniable evidence, Malcolm and his team prepared for their most daring move yet. They arranged a covert press conference to expose the systemic corruption at Skyhawk Airlines. Every detail had to be flawless. Any slip could give the company time to bury the truth again. The day of reckoning arrived. Inside a packed room filled with reporters and cameras, Malcolm stood tall, no longer just a passenger or CEO, but a symbol of resilience and justice. He began, voice steady but burning with conviction. "What happened to me was not an isolated incident. It was part of a much larger pattern, a culture of discrimination, deceit, and abuse of power that has gone unchecked for too long." Projected behind him were the damning documents, emails revealing collusion, video recordings of dismissive and racist remarks, and financial reports showing deliberate marginalization of minority employees. The room erupted in stunned silence. Then a wave of questions and whispers swept through the crowd. But just as the momentum peaked, security personnel burst into the room, attempting to halt the conference. Malcolm's assistant swiftly activated a live stream, broadcasting every moment globally. The airline's desperate attempt to silence him only confirmed the severity of their crimes. Across the world, social media exploded with support for Malcolm and outrage against Skyhawk Airlines. It was a pivotal moment, the beginning of a movement demanding accountability and reform. The aftermath of the press conference was seismic. The viral live stream and overwhelming public support forced Skyhawk Airlines to face a reckoning unlike any in its history. Within days, multiple investigations were launched by government agencies, independent watchdogs, and shareholder committees. The airline's board was shaken to its core. Malcolm Wright, once just a man fighting for respect on a single flight, had become the face of a movement demanding systemic change. But his battle was far from over. He knew dismantling deep-rooted discrimination required more than one victory. It demanded sustained effort, vigilance, and courage. In the weeks that followed, Malcolm met with community leaders, activists, and business executives to draft a new blueprint for corporate accountability and inclusion. He spearheaded initiatives to ensure minority voices were heard and protected at every level, from frontline employees to boardrooms. Back in the skies, Skyhawk Airlines began overhauling its policies. New training programs on unconscious bias were introduced, and the airline publicly committed to transparency and diversity goals. Staff who had stood against injustice found renewed hope. Yet Malcolm's greatest achievement was the awakening he inspired in countless individuals worldwide. People who had long suffered in silence now spoke out, demanding dignity and fairness in their workplaces, communities, and lives. As Malcolm looked out over the horizon from his office window, he felt a profound sense of responsibility and possibility. The fight for respect was ongoing, but this new dawn held promise for a future where merit and humanity, not prejudice, would define success. Malcolm Wright's journey is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of injustice. It reveals uncomfortable truths about the persistence of systemic discrimination even at the highest levels of success. Despite being the youngest CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Malcolm was denied basic respect, a stark reminder that prejudice can penetrate even the most privileged spaces. But beyond the shock and outrage, Malcolm's story teaches us about the power of standing up with dignity and strategic action. His response was measured yet unwavering. He did not react with anger or bitterness, but with clarity, courage, and a firm commitment to justice. By exposing the truth publicly and leveraging his position responsibly, Malcolm transformed personal humiliation into a catalyst for broader societal change. This narrative highlights several crucial lessons. 1. Never underestimate the impact of individual courage. One person's refusal to accept injustice can ignite a movement. Malcolm's willingness to confront discrimination head-on gave voice to countless others who had been marginalized and silenced. 2. Power and privilege do not immunize against prejudice, but they can be tools for change. Malcolm used his authority not for revenge, but to enforce accountability and drive reform within his industry. 3. Systemic problems require systemic solutions. The story shows that individual acts of resistance must be coupled with structural changes, policy reform, education, and transparent leadership to create lasting progress. 4. The importance of allies and community. Malcolm's team, the anonymous insider, and the supportive public were instrumental. Change rarely happens in isolation. 5. Speak truth to power with evidence and persistence. The revelation of documents and hard facts was key to breaking the airline's denial and forcing public reckoning. How can we apply these lessons today? In our workplaces and communities, we should recognize subtle forms of bias and take steps to challenge them, whether by raising awareness, supporting those affected, or advocating for fair policies. We must cultivate courage, the courage to speak up when we witness injustice and to support others who do. Leaders and organizations should embrace transparency and accountability, creating environments where diversity is valued and discrimination is not tolerated. For individuals who feel powerless, Malcolm's story is a reminder that resilience combined with strategic action can disrupt even entrenched systems. Ultimately, this story is a call to action to not accept inequality as inevitable, but to push for a world where respect, dignity, and opportunity are truly universal. If Malcolm's story inspired you, please support the channel by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Your encouragement helps us bring more impactful stories and content that challenge, motivate, and uplift. Together, we can keep shining light on important issues and empower change. Thank you for watching, and remember, your voice matters. Stand tall, speak out, and be the change you want to see.